nerds. I hope your day is going absolutely wonderful, and I welcome you back to the 31 days of Halloween. We are continuing my series on my 31 favorite horror films, and today we have a tends to be a very little known horror film that deserves much more recognition than it has gotten, and it deserves a director's cut that unfortunately will probably never be. Based on one of the greatest novels I've ever had to read, we are talking about
What is this place?
Who knows for sure?
This place was not built to keep anything out. This place was built to keep something in.
You must not stay here.
Something has been released.
Something.
Did you find what you were looking for? Did you expect to find me?
What are you? Whatever kills us gets in anyway. Nothing we do, no security works.
What's happening to me?
The Keep. Presented in separate. The Keep. Coming soon from Paramount Pictures.
The Keep. Yes, The Keep. Written by F. Paul Wilson, introducing us and introducing a storyline that covers so many books. The Adversary Cycle incorporates Paul Wilson's Repairman Jack, so many other characters. It's a series of books I'm just starting to, I've read The Keep, and now that Audible has pretty much all of these books, I'm going to be listening to them while I'm at work, because I want to know the full lore of this story. And there's a lot of lore to this story. Let's talk about the film. What is The Keep? Well, The Keep is about, in World War II Romania, a group of Nazi soldiers, to help felicitate the taking over of Romania, staying in this mysterious keep. But what is interesting is the keep isn't designed to keep things out, but to keep something in. And the design has all these strange nickel crosses. And some of the Nazi soldiers think that behind the nickel there's silver and a treasure being hidden. So a couple, during the nighttime when they're supposed to be on watch, a couple Nazi soldiers find one of these silver crosses and remove the block and release an ancient evil that has been kept down there for years. And now that evil is destroying the Nazi soldiers. So they bring in a Jewish folklorist and his daughter to find out what is destroying their men. And a mysterious stranger arrives in town that just might hold the secret to the keep. This movie is wonderful. The actors in this movie, Jürgen Prochnow, Gabriel Byrne, Sir Ian McKellen, and Scott Glenn, just to name a few, are fan-fucking-tastic in this movie. Directed by Michael Mann, who got so much shit for this movie. The studio, I 100% completely believe they effed him over so bad. His original cut for this film was 3.5 hours long. And we deserve that 3.5 hours. There's so much lore and mythology behind this film. We 100% deserve that director's cut. He has disowned this film. So I don't think we will ever see a director's cut. And as you watch the film, and as good as the movie is by itself, you can see there's a lot of plot holes. You can see where there were certain things that should have been explained that weren't. And it just makes me so mad because I believe his original 3.5 hour cut probably did the book justice. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever see it. The main set of this film was built in a disused, abandoned former state quarry at Glenrowney near Llanberis in North Wales. Some interiors of the keep were filmed inside the natural stonework of the Letchwood Slate Caverns near the historic mining town of Blaenau Faistenig in Gwent, Wales. I am 100% butchering those names, and I apologize. Michael Mann once described the set by saying it's a black, monumental structure that might have been built by a medieval Albert Speer. Michael Mann describes this film as a fairy story for grown-ups. Fairy tales have the power of dreams from the outside. I decided to stylize the art direction and photography extensively, but use realistic characterization and dialogue. And he did a phenomenal job with that. He really did. And I just wish he would have gotten so much more credit than he did. I think he did an absolutely fantastic job with this movie. While it was released on VHS and Laserdisc, it has yet to be released, a full release on DVD or Blu-ray. It has been noted when Paramount was going to release the DVD in 2004, but two reasons stopped them from doing so. First, the studio wasn't able to attain the rights of the soundtrack done so well by Tangerine Dream. And the second was Michael Mann, who disowned the film, forced the studio not to release it. They did finally release a DVD on May 1st, 2017, but the quality is so terrible. It's unviewable. And I don't even think they have the music in it. You can find this film on streaming. I bought it on Amazon, and I was happy to buy it. And it has the original soundtrack. Unfortunately, it's still the cut-down version. It makes me so mad. The writer of the original novel, F. Paul Wilson, was so unimpressed with Michael Mann's adaptation of his work that he wrote a short story called Cuts, in which a writer puts a voodoo curse on a director who has mangled his work. And it's unfortunate because I don't think that was Michael Mann's fault. I think it was more the studio pressuring him into making a generic horror movie and cutting it down drastically. And it sucks because I feel like that longer version would die. This is the second and last collaboration of German electronic music group Tangerine Dream with Michael Mann. Mann said in a 1983 interview, "We have a terrific relationship. I think their work on Thief, 1981, was very successful. The music is very different. This is much more melodic. There are different influences where we're using Thomas Tallis. We're using a lot of choirs processed through a vocoder. I've got in my brain maybe 7 or 8 hours of music, and the soundtrack to this movie is what makes this movie. The acting is great, but the soundtrack to this movie, A+ film. The armored car scene in several scenes is the same vehicle used as Gruber's little tank in BBC's Allo Allo. Thought that was kind of interesting. Final feature film of legendary visual effects supervisor Wally Weavers, who had died in the middle of post-production. The film is dedicated to his memory, with the closing credits dedication saying the Keep production plays tribute to Wally Weavers. That was a nice thing for them to do. First American Hollywood theatrical feature film of Sir Ian McKellen and Jürgen Prochnow. And they do a great job. And one thing I find interesting about this film is Ian McKellen was young. He was a little younger. And they put him in this old man makeup. And it makes him look like old Ian McKellen. Like, he suffers from this disease that kind of has aged him and brought him down. And when the Molosaur, the evil sorcerer golem type entity that is released, starts using him to do his bidding, cures him of this and makes him younger. But the original makeup they had, it looked like older Ian McKellen. It's so funny. When I went back and watched it and compared it, I'm like, holy crap, it really does look like older Ian McKellen. It surprised the hell out of me. The first film directed by Michael Mann to be shot in 2:35:1 widescreen ratio. All of his other feature films have been since shot in this aspect ratio. Mann explained the choice in a 1983 interview. It's important to me for 2 reasons. 1, because this is an expressionistic movie that intends to sweep its audience away. Be very big to have them transport themselves into the dream reality so that they're in those landscapes there with the characters. You can't sweep away people in the 1x1 85 and mono stereo. Also, I'm just not interested in passive filmmaking. In a film that's precious and small and where it's up to the audience to bring themselves in a movie, I want to bombard an audience, a very active, aggressive type of seduction. I want to manipulate the audience's feelings for the same reasons that composers write symphonies. That is something a director, that's their job. And that is fantastic to hear. A board game was based on the movie and was designed by James D. Griffin and published by Mayfair Games in 1983. I'd love to find that board game. Michael Mann retreated to television after the commercial and artistic disappointment of this film, where he then created the hugely successful cop show drama Miami Vice. And it was stylistically influenced by Mann's previous feature debut, Thief. That's what I mean. He was chased out of this business and went to television. And hey, he created Miami Vice, which is awesome. But this film deserves more recognition. The name of the demon character was Radu Molosar. but is also known in its simple abbreviated form as just Molosar. The monster was conceptualized by French comics artist Enki Belail, sorry. And it looks great. It does look like a golem, but I don't think it's meant to be a golem. Golem is Jewish folklore. It's being made out of clay, and this is something completely different. That's the very simplified version. I'm going to make a video on golems soon, so I'll explain more. In the end credits, the enemy being known as Radu Molosar, Radu being a Slavic surname, in the source novel, Professor Kuza is led to believe that Molosar is an ancient Romanian aristocrat, while the novel ultimately reveals that Molosar is actually Rasalam, a sorcerer from an even more ancient age. The film not only leaves out Molosar's identity, it never mentions any of this or his name at all. That is why this... I feel like the 3.5 hour version probably includes all of that. And that's why I highly recommend you read the book. There's so much lore to this movie and to this story. And to what the creature is and what this entity is. And it's such... It's just such a shame we didn't get that. This film needs a full re-release. And I mean the over 3 hour edition, 100%. I personally, I love this film due to its fantastic acting from people like Ian McKellen, Jürgen Prochnow, Gabriel Byrne, Scott Glenn. Scott Glenn plays Glaken, an ancient immortal who is the one that captured Molosar, Rasalam, in the keep and has built the keep to keep him in there. And they don't explain any of this in the film. And that's where I think he just shows up as this character that once Molosar is released, he wakes up out of a nightmare and he heads to the town to defeat the entity. And that's all they really show about this character. And that's why I'm glad the book really goes into Glaken's history, especially his history with Molosar. And I wish the film had featured more of that. His backstory, his everything. It would have been great, but unfortunately we didn't get there. And he does a great job playing Glaken. You just don't really know much about him. You just know that he's a person with this weird weapon, and he knows a little bit about the keep and knows how to defeat the creature. Like, they don't explain how he knows it or any of that. And that's where I feel it just... I wish we could have got a longer version. Again, what makes this movie is Tangerine Dream's soundtrack. It's so wonderful and fantastic and so catchy, it gets stuck in your brain for days. What I find interesting is you don't feel bad at all for the Nazis experiencing these horrible deaths. Not one bit. And there are some horrible deaths, and they deserve everything that happens to them. But you also don't want this ancient evil to get out and spread that death all over the world. But you're also rooting for them to kill the Nazis at the same time. So, there is that. I ask you, give this film a chance. Between the acting, the incredible soundtrack, and what I think is a good direction by Michael Mann, it's worth a shot. And then read the book. Again, if you have Audible, it's available on Audible right now. I'm not sponsored in any way by Audible. I love Audible. It helps me get through my workday. I give this film 4.5 Silver Crosses out of 5, and I beg of you, this movie deserves much more recognition than it has gotten. And if you get a chance to watch it, please do, and read the book and compare them, and you'll find that you will have some nostalgia for the film. And if you want to listen to the soundtrack, I'm sure you can find it. It's probably out there on YouTube. But to watch the film with the score and the scenes that it deserves, it heightens the atmosphere, and it makes the movie, in my opinion. It's what makes the movie. I thank you so much for continuing with me on this long series, but I have been having a blast with this series. Thank you so much. Remember, we truly live in a weird world. A world with golems and ghosts and goblins and spirits. Yes, there are paranormal stuff coming. That was your little tease right there. Thank you so much for watching. Go out and experience this weird world. I'll see you in the next one.